Hi, I finished another from the book along list, and it's this one, Stoneyard Devotional by Charlotte Wood. And this one, when I picked it up, I've heard some people have, it seems to be a book that's a bit divisive because some people have just DNF'd it straight away. But I didn't. I found it quite, I'll say not engaging, but it kept me going. It's written in sort of short paragraphs. And it's not a novel with a plot. You can't say it's got a beginning, middle and end. It's not like a sort of thriller where you've got a climax and stuff like that. It's a novel of almost deep meditation. And it's a kind of diary, a journal, written by a narrator whose name we never know. We don't know an awful lot about her. We don't know her name. We don't know her age, although I would think she's 40s. I don't know. But she's left her marriage and she's left her career, which is in some sort of environmentalist charity, to go on a retreat for 5 days to this nunnery. She wants to escape from the clutter and the noise of everyday life. She just wants to be somewhere quiet. But 4 years later, she's still there. But she's not a nun. She's more like a volunteer. She joins in the life of the nuns, although she's not overly religious. But it's the ritual and the routine that are calming her. And she feels that she's giving something back. Her mother was somebody who was always giving something to the community, and she feels now that maybe she is. We're in the time of COVID, and during this time, our narrator has 3 visitations. And during these visitations, she looks back, she remembers, and we get little bits of backstory when we learn little bits. As I said, we don't know an awful lot about her. We don't know her name or anything like that, but we find out little bits. The first is a mouse plague, and if you don't like mice, the descriptions of this mice plague and the things, it will make your skin crawl. Mice crawling up the fly screens and in the walls. And if you don't like mice, you just will not enjoy those bits. The second is the discovery of the bones of a nun who left the nunnery 30 years previous to go to Thailand and then disappeared. Her bones have now been discovered and are being brought back to the nunnery. And the third visitation is the person who's accompanying the bones, sort of like a superstar nun, a woman called Helen Parry, who, our narrator tells us, she was at school with. She remembers Helen Parry from school, a girl who was often abandoned by her mother, who was left to her own devices, and who our narrator, along with her peers, bullied. So she remembers Helen Parry with shame. So you get glimpses of this backstory. But what you get, as well as the shame of the way that she treated Helen, you get this sense of grief for her parents, her relationship for her parents, and the sense of grief that has never ever left her. Her father's died, and her mother seems to have died more recently. But it's a grief that she has never come to terms with almost. She describes her own mother's grief when her father died, about how the townspeople commented the fact that her mother never cried. They sort of saw it as something, there was something wrong with her. If she didn't cry when her husband died, there must be something wrong with her. And you get the feeling that a narrator hasn't come to terms. You get the feeling that maybe she hasn't cried either. We don't know. We find out about her mother and her relationship with her mother. We never find anything out about that marriage, why she left the marriage, what went wrong there. We don't know not know anything about that. But for me, this is my opinions. I don't know what other people think, but this is where I'm coming from. I forget the feeling that death is almost another character in this novel. It's a contemplation of death. We've got the death of her marriage, the death of her career, the death of her friendships, because her friends were very, very upset that she just abandoned them to go into this nunnery. Different deaths are described in this novel. And then you've also got our own deaths, the death of life itself. I think that this contemplation is the narrator's grief that she never ever got over the death of her mother. She never really understood her mother until her mother had died, sort of thing. Sort of looking back on her life now her mother's died, she can understand her mother much better now than when she was with her. Does that make sense? And at one point she almost wishes that she'd have been older when her mother died, because then she'd have been able to help her mother more. She regrets that her mother died when she did, because she was too young to cope with it almost. And there's one passage here that really, really stood out for me. And it's this: when I think about the phases of my life, When I think about the phases of my life, it is as a series of rooms behind me, each with the door to a previous room left open, behind which is another room, and another, and another. The rooms are not quite empty, not exactly dark, but they are shadowy with indistinct shapes, and I don't like to think about them much. And I think this explains why she is the way she is. There's a darkness there that things that have happened in her life, and she's left one room to go to another room, but there's still darkness in that room, and all these dark periods of her life. There's a feeling of darkness in her. There's a feeling of almost despair. And at the end, has she grown? I don't really know. I think she's more accepting. She's more accepting now. By the end of the novel, she's a lot more accepting than she was at the beginning, I think. But it's a novel that I just had to keep reading. As I said, there's no real action there. But I just had to keep reading it. So, that's this one. Stoneyard Devotional. Some people DNF'd it. I don't know why. I certainly didn't have any desire to DNF it. So, happy reading. Take care.